Hi and welcome back to the course. In this video, we're going to use Postgres instead of SQLite in our app so that we don't lose the data when we deploy again, for example, or when the dyno goes to sleep. What we have to do first is to add Postgres as an add-on. So we're going to go over to the resources section of our app and we're going to click on Find More Add-ons. This takes us to the Heroku add-ons, also called Heroku elements, and this has a bunch of add-ons that we can add to our application. There is loads of different things that we can add, so if you find anything interesting that you want to work with, and maybe that you know something about, you can definitely install it and have a look around. For example, there's things for MongoDB, for storing data in Redis, and many more things. As you can see, all of the categories there on the left. There's even integrations to send SMS and things like that. But what we're interested in is in Postgres, so we're going to look for that. And as you can see, there's 157 Postgres-related add-ons. We're interested, however, on the first one, Heroku Postgres. So let's click on that. And then we're going to install Heroku Postgres. This is free, by the way, so we can install it for free. We're going to select the application, which is going to be stores-rest-API, and then we're going to press continue. This may take a while to do, so if that is the case, then just give it a few minutes. And then at the end, we have to choose our plan. So we can choose Hobby Dev, which is the free plan. And as you can see, it goes up all the way to $7,000 a month. So make sure to not select that. And again, you may have to give your credit card details to install an add-on. But if you select the free add-on, you will not be charged. Okay, so go ahead and press provision. And there we have it. Now we have a database connected to our app. Now the limitation on this database is 10,000 rows. So we cannot have more than 10,000 rows in our database distributed amongst all our tables. So the total combined number of rows between all our tables cannot be more than 10,000. Okay, so this is just for developing and working and checking things out. It's not for a production application. If you want a production application that you're working with a lot of people and you're maybe making money from it, you'll have to pay. Then let's go over to the settings, because there's something that's changed in our settings now that we have installed the Postgres add-on. If you go to config variables and reveal your config vars, you can see that there's something here that we didn't write, and that is a database URL. Right now, our database URL is SQLite://data.db. But now we have another database URL here. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that we use this database URL in our application. If not, we will still be using SQLite. Okay? So let's go over to Atom, and we are going to go over to the app.py file, and we're going to use the new database URL. In Heroku, the database URL has been added as an environment variable. An environment variable is something that the system, the computer, or the virtual machine in case of Heroku, keeps track of. So that computer is always going to know the value of the variable, of the environment variable. So all we have to do is we have to read that variable from the environment. And in order to do that, at the very top we're going to import OS, stands for operating system, and that gives us access to the operating system's environment variables. And then down here, before the SQLite, we're going to type os.environ for environment .get database_URL. This is the name of the variable that Heroku has created for us, the environment variable. And what this is going to do is it's going to go to the operating system and it's going to ask it for this environment variable. And if we are in Heroku, then it's going to read that environment variable and it's going to connect to the Postgres app. Or rather, it's going to use that value as the app's config value. However, we still want to be able to run the app locally for testing and for developing. So it's also important that we can use SQLite locally if the database URL is not defined. So for example, if we run the app in our computer, we won't have this environment variable defined. So we want to still use SQLite in that case. Unfortunately, all that we have to do is pass this string as a second argument to the get method. So I'm going to delete this bracket, put a comma in there, and then put the bracket at the end. And now the get method is taking in two parameters. First one, the environment variable that we're going to read, and the second one, the default value. If this variable is not found in the system, we're going to use this one instead. We're going to use this value instead. Okay? So in our computer, we would try to load up this variable. We would fail because we've not set it. And then we would use the SQLite variable instead, the SQLite code instead. Okay? So save that file, and then go to the requirements.txt, and here we have to add something, which is psychopg2, and press save. Psychopg2 is a very popular Python library used to interact with Postgres. And SQL Alchemy, which is our thing that we're using to communicate with the database, uses psychopg2 to communicate with Postgres, and so we need to import that. Even though we are not using it ourselves, we have to import it in the same way that we have to install UWSGI. So once that's done, let's go over to the terminal, and we're going to do git commit am and say added PostgreSQL environment variable and psychopg2. Okay? And then we can do git push. Because I've been playing around with my repository, I have to do -f, but you don't have to do that yourselves, okay? So only I have to do that. You can just do git push. And then we can go over to Chrome and go to our deploy tab, and we can deploy our app. So we're going to deploy that branch there. And that is deploying. It should only take a few seconds. And that's it there deployed. So what we're going to do is go over to the overview section of our app first, and we're going to click on Heroku Postgres. And what this is going to take us is it's going to take us to our databases, which we've only got one. So we're going to press on the data store there. And here we're going to be able to see what data we've got in our app. So as you can see, we've got 0 connections running. The limit is 20 simultaneous connections. We've got 0 rows out of a maximum of 10,000 rows. And it also tells us our data size and the number of tables we've got. Now it comes the time to test it. So let's go over to Postman, and we're going to register. And there we have user created successfully. Then we can do some auth, and we get an access token, retrieve items, for example, and so on. Now let's go over back to Chrome, and we're going to refresh. There you have it. So now we have 1 row, which is the registered user, 1 active connection, which is coming from our app, and 3 tables. Okay? So there you have it. There's also a bunch of things you can do down here, such as get the credentials to access this database using pgadmin or your command line. You can also reset the database and delete all the data, or of course you can destroy it as well. So that's everything for this video. We've looked at how to get PostgreSQL working with our app. But remember, we haven't had to change anything in our code. SQL Alchemy just seamlessly transfers between SQLite, and PostgreSQL without a problem. So that's everything for this video, and I'll see you on the next one.